Hello, this is JOMAJ Studios and this is our original fantasy action adventure, The Fall of Nale, episode 16. Meanwhile, hundreds of feet below, in the royal hall of the Nale kingdom, the king of Nale sat with his people's councilmen to discuss the state of his land. Beside the king sat his advisor, Sir Nathaniel, with his once heartthrob face hardened by more than 20 years of living by the sword. Sir Nathaniel's presence reinforced the councilmen's respect for the throne. Sire, there is talk of a plague outbreak in nearby towns and villages, informed the head councilman. Has any evidence of this been gathered? Asked the king. No, but talks of it is making our people wary about buying supplies from neighboring kingdoms. This is putting a strain on the general prosperity of the kingdom, said another councilman. Sire, I will have my men investigate the matter thoroughly, said Sir Nathaniel, maintaining his usual stern look. Then it is agreed. Nothing will be done until we know more about the matter, announced the king. Sire, there is a young man outside who wishes to speak to Sir Nathaniel, informed the guard, interrupting the meeting. Bring him in, ordered the king. His words prompted Nathaniel to rise from his seat and take a step closer to the entrance of the hall. As ordered, the young man was brought in. How can I help you? Asked Nathaniel, addressing the stranger, who was a teenage boy of the same age as his son, dressed in an attire usually worn by sailors. The boy responded by handing Nathaniel a ring. The Nale knight inspected the ring only to find a royal symbol on it, as well as an inscription of his name. Where did you get this? Asked Nathaniel. My father gave it to me before he died. I have been training all my life for a chance to be a knight. I was told by my father to reach the shores of Nale and seek you out when I was ready to face the challenges of knighthood, explained the boy, with an aura of enthusiasm and excitement in his eyes. I owe your father my life, which is why I will give you a chance to prove yourself, promised Nathaniel. Before the young boy could show any form of gratitude, the doors of the hall shattered into pieces, making way for a beautiful young woman to float into the hall gracefully. Elos, said Nathaniel, drawing out his sword, as he immediately recognized the sorceress. Elos responded to Nathaniel's challenge with a simple smile, as hands smashed through the walls and side-kicked the knight in the stomach. Nathaniel, who was thrown across the room and through the meeting table, got to his feet as soon as he hit the ground. Han, knowing there was still much fight left in the night, ran up to the experienced warrior to bombard him with another set of attacks. Nathaniel responded by thrusting his sword at the shapeshifter, who in turn kicked the knight's weapon out of his hand and floored him with a back fist. As soon as Nathaniel dropped to his hands and knees, he leaped up and tackled Han down to the floor, where he began to punch the robbery being continuously in the face. Han, out of sheer frustration, threw Nathaniel off, who in turn went into a roll from which he regained his weapon and got to his feet. Before Han could get himself together, Nathaniel decapitated him with one swing of his enchanted sword. I see you haven't lost your edge, said Elos, then using an invisible force to disarm the knight and suspend him in mid-air. I'm not here to cause any trouble. All I'm here to do is take what is rightfully mine, said Elos as she used her powers to revive Han. Which is? Asked the helpless knight defiantly. Which is the place as the ruler of this world, answered Elos, increasing the seriousness in her voice. You're mad, responded Nathaniel. Really? You're brave and I respect that. But if you do not acknowledge me as your queen, I will destroy you, warned the sorceress. Go to hell, yelled out Nathaniel. Showing no mercy, Elos effortlessly disintegrated the knight with a purple energy beam. She then proceeded to eliminate everyone in the building, everyone except a single councilman, to whom she left specific instructions. Tell the people of Nale that they have 14 days to swear their allegiance to me. Anyone who doesn't recognize me as their queen will perish. Meanwhile, back in Mitch's backyard, the inventor and the boys returned from their flight. That was great! Luke, do you think your dad will let us use this for tomorrow's excursion? Inquired Lance as they jumped out of the flying machine. No, he won't, said a familiar voice. The boys turned to find it was Jacob. Jacob, now in his early 40s, looked 10 years younger. However, he had lost the fire he once had in his eyes as a young man, to a look that had been humbled by fatherhood. Father, we were just about to head home, said Luke, hoping his father wouldn't realize he and the boys had skipped a great deal of their training time. Don't bother with the excuses. The training you missed today, you will make up for it this evening, said Jacob, then leaving the compound. The next morning, Jacob and his students rode towards the Hilarion mountain. My God, my whole body's aching. I can't believe I had to go through all that intense training because of your stupid bets, whispered the young prince to his comrades. Look, no one forced you to tag along. Besides, the pain would pass once you stretch out for the climb, whispered back Luke, in an effort not to let his father hear their conversation. I'm curious, what does climbing a stupid mountain have to do with being a warrior? I mean, wouldn't a combat test amongst the three of us be more appropriate? Yelled out Lance as he and his horse lagged behind. Being a good warrior isn't about being the best fighter. It's about being able to take on any challenge with determination, courage, and honor, responded Jacob as he rode in front. I guess so. Besides, a fighting contest with these two won't be much of a challenge, bragged Lance. Lance, could you stay in this reality for at least 5 minutes? Responded Luke. The need to compete against each other will put you two on very dangerous paths. Believe me, living to be the best is the quickest route to insanity. Because no matter how good you think you are, there will always be someone as good or better. My advice to you two is to respect each other and work together, warned Jacob. After about 4 hours of riding, Jacob and his students finally reached the foot of the Hilarion mountain. So this is it. It's a lot bigger than I imagined, said the young prince as he gazed in amazement. Please, I could do this climb in my sleep, bragged Lance as he dismounted his horse. Really? Tell me, Lance, do you have to deceive yourself about everything? Said Luke, putting out doubt over Lance's climbing skills. Tell you what, I'll race you to the top. The loser passes over all his privileges to the first one up, challenged Lance. And by privileges you mean, inquired Luke. I mean pocket money and the usage of the horses. Plus, the loser has to do all the chores around the compound for a week, clarified Lance. Are you sure you want to bet all that? I mean, I'm pretty sure you would lose to me, said Luke confidently. Don't flatter yourself. I'm sure I can beat you with one hand tied behind my back, responded Lance. Wow. With all that hot air, I'm surprised you haven't reached the top already, responded Luke with a big grin on his face. Tell you what, I'll let Nat join in, so when I beat you, you can at least claim victory over him, suggested Lance. Do what you want. It makes no difference to me, said Luke, who had already begun to stretch. So what do you say? Are you in, Nat? Asked Lance keenly. Sure, said the prince hesitantly, a bit insulted by the notion he wasn't much of a challenge for any of his fellow students. Jacob, who was slightly amused, shook his head in disbelief, for it was clear that the boys had already brushed aside his advice. All three boys raced up the mountain, displaying mind-blowing agility. Lance was right to assume that he and Luke were superior to Prince Nathaniel in terms of mountain climbing. However, they were so engrossed in beating each other, they ended up underestimating the prince, giving him room to get to the top first. I win, yelled out Lance. No, you didn't, cried out Luke. Guys, it was a draw. Besides, I beat both of you, pointed out the prince, feeling rather proud of himself. All three boys then gasped in amazement as they saw custom-made versions of every weapon they ever trained with arranged neatly on the ground. You three have advanced significantly in your martial arts, so much so you need very little instructions from me to further advance. As a reward for your dedication and hard work, I have given you the honor of picking a weapon of your choice and dipping it into the Hilarion waters, said Jacob after completing his climb. All three boys then picked a weapon that best suited their individual styles. Lance chose a pair of brass-ended nunchucks, Luke picked a spear-headed chain, and Prince Nathaniel took hold of 2 short swords. After dipping their weapons in the Hilarion waters, the boys got a feel for their new weapons by practicing their individual forms. Finally, after half an hour, the boys decided to make their way down the mountain. How about a race down? Suggested Lance, eager to redeem himself. Fine by me, responded Luke and Nathaniel in unison. Good. This time I will not leave room for lucky breaks, announced Lance. Jacob laughed to himself as he watched his students make their way down the mountain while he stayed behind to gather up the rest of the weapons. By now the race had started, and Luke was in the lead ahead of Lance by a good 5 meters, while the young prince trailed way behind. Prince Nathaniel's eagerness to catch up with his fellow students caused him to slip and fall. Lance, catching sight of the plunging prince, acted quickly and jumped off the mountain in a backward somersault motion, like a human cannonball. As Lance fell past Luke, who had now placed himself in an upside-down position, he opened up, allowing the son of Jacob to grab hold of his legs. As the prince fell past his friends, Lance grabbed hold of his hands and swung him towards the side of the cliff, where the young prince held on. You do know you disrupted the race, said Luke as he and Lance got themselves together. You guys are unbelievable. I almost get killed and all you can think of is your stupid race, said the prince, angered by Luke's statement. Don't be such a woman. You're okay now, aren't you? Responded Lance with a smirk on his face. Guys, "Something's happening up there," announced Luke as he noticed the sky light up over the top of the mountain. And he was right, for while they had been executing high-risk maneuvers down the mountain, a portal made out of energy opened up in the presence of their teacher. Jacob then prepared to defend himself as he sees Elos and Han walk out of it. Elos then threw Sir Nathaniel's sword in front of him. "That is all that remains of your comrade. It will be very foolish of you to make the same mistake as he did and oppose me," said Elos. "What do you want?" asked Jacob, not allowing his rage to consume him. "I want you to do what the late Nathaniel couldn't. I want you to bow to me and acknowledge me as your queen," demanded Elos. Jacob looked at Elos, and his eyes revealed a rage that was unsettling. So much so, Han conjured up a sword with a blade made out of flames in an effort to scare him a little. Jacob, saying no more, kicked up the sword of his dead comrade and attacked Han with extreme intensity, fueled by gut-wrenching emotions. Han, barely able to defend himself, managed to hold his ground. A lot had changed since the evil being last faced Jacob, for the noble warrior was no longer a student of the martial arts, he was now a master. Han pumped himself up in order to gain an advantage, but it did him no good. For Jacob's superior fighting technique came from speed and skill and relied very little on strength. With a quick spinning attack, Jacob slashes the shapeshifter across the abdomen. Han staggered back, while Jacob messily advanced forward with the intent to finish him off. Han reacted by multiplying himself into a dozen armed men. Jacob, outnumbered but not outmatched, began attacking the evil beings, who began attacking him from all angles. They couldn't even touch him. Jacob's skill far exceeded theirs, enabling him to make slaying them seem less than easy. It wasn't long before Han was reduced to nothing more than a pile of body parts. Elos, seeing enough, used an invisible force to disarm the noble warrior and suspend him in mid-air. The Hilarion waters will protect one against almost any kind of sorcery. I, however, don't have the powers of a sorcerer. I have the powers of a god, said the sorceress, then using an invisible force to drive the sword of Nathaniel through the noble warrior's chest before allowing him to fall to the ground. Jacob was already a second away from death when Elos disintegrated him with a ray of purple energy. "Father, no!" yelled out Luke as he and his friends made it to the top of the mountain in time to witness his father's death. Elos, satisfied with all that had happened, resurrected Han and teleported off the mountain. "Father," quietly uttered Lance as he dropped to his knees in front of his father's sword, for he knew that day he had lost two fathers, because as far as he knew, his father, Sir Nathaniel, would only part from his sword in death. That is the end of episode 16, but before you go, answer this episode's question. Did Jacob and Nathaniel die because of their pride or because of their honor? Refer to the Bible and leave your answer via any of JOMAJ Studios' social media platform links, which can be found at jomajstudios.com. Like Water, The Next Age is now available on paperback and in ebook format via any Kindle device. Also, check out the JOMAJ Studio website, Twitter page, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube channel for the complete Like Water series and all other JOMAJ Studio features.